Hey everyone. So I wanted to do a really quick tutorial on how to think about locking cells. We touched on it briefly in the first session, but I wanted to do a little bit more of a quick but in-depth video on it here. So in order to understand locking cells, you have to understand cell references in the first place. So cell references always tell you the column and the row in that order. The column is always a letter and the row is always a number. So this cell right here would be L6 because it's column L, row 6. So if I went into the cell next to it and said equals and clicked this, it would say equals L6 because that's the column in the row. And I know that sounds overly simplistic, but that's a thing that you really have to have a handle on before you start talking about why you want to lock and unlock certain parts of cell references. So the easiest way to understand locking cells, I think, is with a matrix like this. So essentially what this is we want every cell to be adding the number that's in this row and the number that's in this column together. So we'll start up here, and we're just going to do equals this E4 right here plus D5 right here, right? And that equals 2, which is obviously correct. But let's say we want to take this formula, and instead of having to do this every time, saying equals this plus this, instead of doing that, we want to just copy one formula and paste it into the whole thing. Well, if we do it currently, what happens is because Excel's references are dynamic, these references move exactly the number of cells down or over that you move the formula. So here it's adding, it moved right one and down one. So every reference moved right one and down one with it. And that's what we don't want to happen. So how do we fix that? So see like this one. This added 210 and 210 because it's one above it and one to the left of it. That's exactly what this is doing. One above it, one to the left of it. So let's delete this really quick. And we just have to think about what we want this to do when we paste it down. So uh, in this blue reference, we want it to move left and right, right? We want it to move along this axis, but we do not want it to move along this axis. So what we want is we want it to move from E to F to G to H. So we want the column to move. So that tells us instantly what we want. So we want the column to move, so we're going to lock the row because that's the thing we don't want to move. We don't want this reference to go up and down. And it's exactly the opposite for this one. We want it to move up and down along the rows, but we do not want it to move left and right along the columns. So we're going to lock the column in this case. And you lock things with dollar signs. I guess I should have gone over that in the first place. But yeah, so now it should say E $4, and the dollar sign here is locking the 4, which is the row, and this should say $D5, $D is locking the row. So now what happens when we copy and paste this is that these the blue reference has moved this way, but it does not move this way now. And the red reference moves this way, but does not move this way. And you see how that turns one formula into something that can be pasted down and follow the logic that you want it to follow. And we'll see that a little bit more here. So we're going to use an XLOOKUP here to do something very similar to what we were doing in Excel session 1, which is using a store number reference to find information somewhere else. So and I have a video on this same channel going over quickly how to do an XLOOKUP if you've forgotten the XLOOKUP formula. But so we're going to do equals XLOOKUP. We're going to select the store number here because that's what is going to allow us to find the information over in this bit, comma, the lookup array, which is where the store number is, which is this column right here. And then in this case, we're trying to find net sales. So we're going to select the net sales column and close parentheses and press enter. So you see we did get the correct entry for this store net sales. right there, 35,387. So let's say we want to take this and paste it down this way. So obviously, this formula has a lot more references in it than the just addition formula up here does. But you follow exactly the same process to figure out what you want to lock and unlock. So in this case, the store number, we want it to move up and down, right? But we never want it to try and reference something further this way because a store number is never going to be over farther this way. So in this case, we want to lock it to column D so that it never moves out of column D. And then the lookup array, which is this red here, this one we never ever want to move anywhere because this is just a reference to the actual array where the store number is found. So we never want this to move down if we paste the formula down, and we never want it to move right or left. So in that case, we're going to lock both the row and the column for both references because this is Q19 is the top cell in this and Q27 is the bottom cell, which is how the array is created or is referenced. And then the final one, which is net sales. So you could do two things here. You could just lock this exactly like we locked the store number, and then it would never move, and you could use this formula and paste it down all the way down in net sales, and you would be fine. But you can actually kill two birds with one stone here because if you look at these two, at the little dashboard here and the source data, we're going from net sales to trans and then to RGM hours, and they're one column apart, all of them are. So what that means is that you can actually let this move this way when you paste it over to the right on the dashboard, because every time you paste it over one, this will move over one, and then it'll move over one again when you paste it over one again. But you don't ever want it moving this way, right? So in this case, it's okay if it moves in the columns because we want to reference the next data point we want, but we don't ever want it to move in the rows. So we're going to lock the rows and keep the columns dynamic. So again, we locked the column here for store number because we don't want it moving left and right. We locked everything for this because we never want this to move. And this one, we want to go left and right, actually, but we don't want it to go up and down. So we locked just the rows. So now when you paste this down, it not only pulls net sales, but it also pulls trans and RGM hours like you wanted it to. And this is amazing because if you have very large amounts of data, it allows you to create, again, one formula that pulls all this information very quickly. And that is basically all you need to know about locking cells. I will save this file and link it in the description into Dropbox link for you guys to use if you'd like to go through this.